The following broadcast is intended for mature audiences. These are real people sharing very real, deeply personal experiences. This content may be considered triggering for others and for those who are sharing. The chat room is a privilege intended for discussions and sharing. You are not being asked to agree, but you are being asked to stay civil and refrain from personal attacks. Listener discretion is advised. All right, welcome back to Am I Mental, a live mental health podcast where real people share real stories about living their lives with mental health issues. I am your host, E. This week we are actually without the co-host, KZ. He is on his way out of state to go check up on a job interview coming up, which is good for him. But we do have our guest, 4, with us. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so yeah, we are still doing the show here. So I forgot to send out some of the alerts to everybody, but we already have Brandy and Bexy in the chat, so it looks like people are still remembering to set their alarms and all that to let them know that we are doing this.
Hey, Brandy. Hey, Bexy.
All right, so we have 4 on here, and today's topic, basically, from what we talked about a little bit before, is going to be about loss. Because, I mean, you have 2 kind of things that you want to talk about, but they both tie into loss.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of get people a little up to speed here.
My name is 4. I suffer from all kinds of mental illnesses. The major ones, to be blunt, are ADHD, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. The post-traumatic stress disorder comes from, I want to say, experiences that I had with my second wife, and not necessarily the loss of my children, but I don't know how to put it. I'm more familiar with.
We just had a little bit of a cutout. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So just if you want to repeat that last part again about the kids.
Like I said, it's more of a mental loss. More people may be familiar with, like death. My children are still alive. They're not with me. I haven't seen my children for over 11 years now. My second wife accused me of some terrible things, which I have told E about, and he is fully aware. He really helped me out in as far as getting through the situation. He was more there for moral support and friend support, and we've been very close friends for, I want to say, almost 15 years now. And we've always been there for each other when the going gets tough. I miss my kids. I think about them every day. There's just no words really to describe the kind of emotions that come out and that are displayed when I think about them and talk about them openly. If I had to explain my second wife in one word, I would have to say Karen.
I would have gone with evil, but it works.
Yes, but you know how they explain women who don't like to mind their own business in social media these days. They're called Karen.
Right.
So
well, not even just that.
If there's any Karens out there listening, it's nothing against you. Just let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Just unfortunate that your name happens to match what has gotten popular as I need to see the manager.
Yeah, of course. Anyways, she accused me of sexually molesting my children. knowing my character and knowing my friends, they they believe that there's absolutely no way that I could have done something like this. And it's preposterous.
It absolutely is, and this is coming, I was on the outside. We kind of knew each other at the time, but
Yeah.
I mean, I would trust you with my kids. It's preposterous.
And any one of my friends that has children would trust me with the well-being of theirs. I spent all the time with my kids when her and I were still together. I would have to beg her when she got home from work to spend 5 minutes with my children. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Somebody who gives birth to their children but doesn't want to spend any time with them. I just don't understand. Me being the father that I was, and with E being the father that he is, how can something like that be possible? Eric's a great father to his children.
Hey, you just name dropped.
Sorry. Sorry, E.
It happens a lot.
You know it was going to happen. Like most of your listeners don't know your name by now anyway.
I'm sure almost every one of them do now. But that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, that's where.
But I mean,
most of my...
if you really want to kind of put in perspective just how evil she is, why don't you tell them a little bit about how you met who you're with now? That there should tell you everything.
Absolutely. Okay. So, after Karen had been cheating on me for 1.5 years, which I was totally just naive about. I mean, I was totally unaware, but I had friends out there who were kind of hinting me into the fact that she was cheating on me, but I just didn't get it. I guess I just didn't want to realize the fact that, my significant other or my spouse was cheating on me. I just didn't want to accept it, or I just didn't.
Well, I mean, one way to put it, and this is very common, is that someone that's not capable of committing evil never suspects that the person they're with can commit evil towards them. And, people may hint about it, and you're going to be like, nah, that can't be right.
Well, that's a great analogy. But anyways, she had introduced me to my current spouse while we were still married. So her and I met, I think it was during my 34th birthday party. And
I remember that party.
I was very, 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 very drunk.
Yes, you were.
And I will never be that drunk again. Anyways, I've matured since then. But after my birthday party ended, 5 minutes puking later, we went outside, got in my truck, and we were getting ready to leave. So my current spouse, I will not name drop, my wonderful, wonderful, beautiful wife.
And she really is awesome.
She is just the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. And we've been together for 12.5 years now.
Even though at the time, at the time of the party, she wasn't really who she is today.
She didn't really know me at the time.
Right.
She knew of me, but anyway, that's history.
But she was part of the plot.
Oh, yes. She was the better part of the plot. So she goes over and she plants a kiss on Karen. And, me being as drunk as I was, not that I will ever, ever in my life regret this moment, because I am so very happy for it. I call over to her at the other side of the truck and I say, "Where's mine?" So she proceeds to walk over to my side of the truck, plant a beautiful French kiss on my lips. And that was that. I can't remember much more from that evening.
You were pretty drunk.
I was pretty friggin' hammered. So we go home, and I go to bed, and I pass the F out. And I can't even remember what happened the next morning. I'm pretty sure I was recovering from my drunkenness and my hangover.
Yeah, probably had a head full of little dwarves just hammering away.
Dwarves, they were freaking gnomes with hammers.
Probably machine guns and jackhammers.
Oh yeah, you can probably say that. That's probably a better analogy. And we got together. I think it was a few days later, and Dean didn't. Oh, my wife did not have a place to stay at the time, so we had arranged for her to stay with us for a week or two while she was getting her affairs in order. I'm trying to remember everything I can here.
Little did you know that was actually still part of the plot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Karen did not expect it to backfire.
Yeah.
Shortly after,
in case listeners haven't quite picked it up yet, just to see if this is right, wasn't your ex's plan for you to cheat on her so she'd have reason to divorce you or some crap like that?
Absolutely. Dean must have told you that. I
name dropped again. But yeah, so
well, nobody knows who she is. So.
No. But yeah, so that's what the ex planned, was to get together with one of her best friends to try to get to cheat on her,
so that way she would have a reason to divorce me.
Yes,
because her parents wouldn't accept her wanting to divorce me for unhappiness or non-reconciliable relationship.
Yeah. Wanted to get Four to cheat, and that's not who Four is.
That's not who I am. I mean, seriously, we were together, I think, 2002 to 2008, almost 6 years before we split. And the reason we split is because I wanted to continue a relationship with her. Not the bitch, but the woman that she introduced me to.
Right.
So it backfired on her. And it kind of gets worse from there. We moved into a house together soon after.
Sorry, Bexy just dropped the line that's getting me to crack up. First, Brandy said, "And do better in divorce court too." And then Bexy, "The lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch."
Well said. You don't know her as well as I do, but you pretty much hit it on the nose there.
Oh yeah.
That's not even the beginning though. I would describe her as manipulative, vindictive.
She's a classic narcissist.
Exactly. Narcissist, bitch, and some of the words that I can't say on the air because it's too inappropriate. But he knows what I have in mind.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure half the listeners out there, if not all of them, have a good idea of what you're aiming at.
Oh, yeah. So, that's where most of my mental issues came into play. My depression really set in. My anxiety. I mean, my PTSD comes from, or roots, stems from that situation. Before that, I didn't really have any post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was in the military, and nothing really had an effect on me. I was never in war. I was never in combat. I never got into any situations that would put a lot of stress on me. But those experiences, I mean, everything that we were in together, it went to court, family court, it went to criminal court. I spent 5 days in jail because of it. The worst 5 days of my life. So,
and we were in contact almost daily during all that.
Oh yeah,
we went from acquaintances to really close friends pretty quickly.
Really close friends during that. Yes, absolutely, we did. So if there's anyone out there listening that has kids, that has a wife, just I don't know how to say it other than be careful, because situations like this are becoming more and more prominent these days. A lot of
false accusations.
Women that don't want their children to have anything to do with their parents. All they have to do is accuse the father of doing something like this, or something that I was accused of.
And your kids were too small at the time to be able to
be
a reliable witness.
They were very influenced by her. And the same thing happened with her son, believe it or not. Her son was 5 years old when she left her first husband. And at the time, he was very influenced by the stories she had to tell about her ex-husband. At one point in time, she had told me that, well, he threw him on the couch and blah, blah, blah. When it turns out, well, I don't know if it was true or not, but I'm more leaning towards that it wasn't.
Right.
Because of everything that I've been through. And she accused her first husband of abusing her. Well, the woman I'm with right now, she had been through a physically abusive and mentally abusive relationship. And all the traits that are shown from an abused person, Karen did not display any of those behaviors.
She seems to more display those of the abuser.
It's more like she wants to attract negative attention, no matter what kind of attention she attracts. If it's positive, the more better for her. But if it's negative, she doesn't care, just as long as she attracts the attention.
And Brandy just said, I hear a lot of this in my stepmom support group. Some women can be downright evil and vindictive.
Yes, they can.
And the legal system helps to allow for it. It's our legal system's good, but there's definitely room for improvement. Let's just put it.
There's room for a lot of improvement.
Yeah, there's some definite areas that need a lot of improvement. And this is one of them. It enables the women, because the default, especially in the West Coast states, is to, always believe the women and immediately throw the men under the bus, as opposed to actually following due process.
The legal system doesn't cater to men, especially the family law system. It caters more to the side of the mom.
And we're not trying to get political here. This is just go look at the data.
Absolutely not.
Look at the data.
You just look at the data. I mean, if you ever want to find out, what particular cases have the highest conviction rate, all you have to do is look it up. What is the conviction rate of this? What's conviction rate of that? And in El Dorado County, these particular cases have a very high conviction rate. The conviction rate of the crime that I was accused of is 98%. So my attorney and I decided it's really not going to be beneficial for us to go to court. We just need to make a deal.
Right. I mean, you only had a 2% chance.
There was no DNA evidence even suggesting that I had committed this crime. So the DA, along with the bitch, struck a deal with my attorney and I. So I got 4 years probation, no contact with my children. And I had to take a parenting course for a year. So I decided that was a better deal than spending 68 years in state prison, which, I think what they do to child molesters in prisons.
Yeah, not good.
Not good at all.
And we just got Ivania to pop in. Said, Erg, hey everybody, hi therefore. I've been here but had issues signing in. I'm with other listeners. This woman was a biscuit witch from the oven of hell.
Well put. Thank you very much. I appreciate the comments. It's making me feel pretty good. There are other people out there who recognize what these people can do to destroy a family.
Everybody knows somebody or has heard of somebody who has a friend or whatever that this has happened to. I just happen to have been in a situation where one of my better friends had this happen to them and they wanted to talk about it. So this is really awesome to be able to share this so that way people can see this is no joke. And, it's like you hear about it in the news and it sticks around the news cycle until something else comes along and then you never think about it again. But This is your life. You still haven't seen your kids.
Nope. I get pictures of them every now and again. I haven't received one in over a year because I guess she's being really careful about posting pictures of my kids on Facebook nowadays. But I don't know. I really couldn't care less what she does with her life. I just care about what my kids do with theirs. I've been told by every single one of my friends, everybody that knows me, that your kids will come looking for you one day, and I have all the faith in the world that they will.
I think they will too.
They'll want to know the truth. They'll want to know me in my life after them. And hopefully they'll want to know me later in a life with them.
Right, and just the life that you've built so far since is definitely one worth talking about, one to be proud of,
yes,
and
absolutely.
one to share. And that's awesome. You didn't just squander and wither away.
Nope.
You kept pushing forward. They were always in your heart. They're all. Every time we talk, it comes up.
Yep.
And it's been years.
Yes.
And we had Ariel jump in saying, Biscuit Witch LOL. Cat tiptoes in the room whispering apologies for being late. Ivania, this story is already pissing me off because I've been on the other side.
Wow.
The actual act destroys the lives of the victims. False accusations furthers the normalization of rape culture and victim shaming. Bullseye.
Yes. Right on the nose. I couldn't have explained it better myself.
No, Ivania has got away with words. And this is just one part of your story.
Oh God. There's just so much more to tell.
We are only 25 minutes in. We're not even 25 minutes in.
Oh, 24.
Yeah.
I could write a book on all the hell that I've been through. I really could. Being that I've got ADHD, I could tell you bits and pieces of it, and then when we go off the air, I could remember something that I forgot to say.
Right.
You know how it is.
Yeah. And one thing for the audience to understand too is that you guys may hear us joke back and forth a bit. Unfortunately, one of our coping mechanisms and one of our defense mechanisms that we both have is humor. So sometimes when we feel our most vulnerable or most hurt, we're going to joke.
Yep.
And that's
what we do.
It's what we both do. So, we may joke at the most emotionally wrong points, but it's a defense mechanism.
Yep.
It's to prevent the tears.
Yes, absolutely.
Although if the tears come, they come. You wouldn't be the first person on the show to cry, and you won't be the last.
Oh, I do try to keep my emotions in check.
It's tough, though, the show, I'm telling you.
It is, especially when you're talking about kids you haven't seen for a really, really, really long time.
Right.
I've explained the situation to mental health professionals, sometimes even to people I just met. Because, I'm not ashamed to come out and say it because I didn't do it.
Right.
If, you know, vice versa. I mean, if someone comes on the show and they did do it, they're not going to talk about it. It's something they're going to shut up about it because they're ashamed of it.
Right, or they're going to start bragging about what they did and go into details that no one wants to hear, and
No,
and
absolutely
I
not.
don't want that on my show. Sorry,
No,
that's not what
no,
this is
I'm
not the platform.
No, it's not. Absolutely. But that point aside, um, I just sometimes I still can't believe to this day that she went to those lengths. She not only destroyed me, but she destroyed my kids as well. And they're going to grow up not having their biological father in their lives. You know, the reason I'm going to wait till they turn 18, both of them. My oldest will be 18 next year in August, and my youngest will be 18 in 2024. No, 2023. Both graduated high school, hopefully. And I look forward to waiting until then. Hopefully neither of them get married before I get to see them again, because that would really break my heart to not be able to walk my daughters down the aisle.
Understood.
That is really one thing that I fear about not being able to have a relationship with my children, is not being able to have me walk them down the aisle when it's time for them to get on with their lives, time to separate themselves from their parents. It's just really depressing for a person like me, and for other fathers around the world that don't get to experience these rites of passage in life.
All right. And you're doing all right. You're okay, 4.
Yeah.
And
I
nope.
am.
You want to turn to get a little more anger to fight off the tears? Because you can always talk about what your ex, what Karen does with the kids ever since.
She doesn't do anything with them. When I was with her, her parenting role was inactive. I mean, I was the parent before we separated. I was losing jobs left and right. I couldn't keep a job because of my ADHD and other mental disabilities or whatever have you. And now that I'm on ADHD medication, I can concentrate better. I can sit down and I can read a book for hours on end. Before I was on my medication, I couldn't sit down. I couldn't concentrate. It was just crazy. All of my mental disabilities just pretty much all hit at once when all this went down. And I was working at a local furniture delivery store. And I mean, it was so bad. We were unloading boxes and storing stuff in the warehouse. And I started to feel a sudden pain in my chest and pain going down my right arm. And I didn't know what it was. So I went into one of my supervisor's office and told him or her what was going on. I can't remember if it was a male or female at the time, but that's not relevant. And we called the paramedics. I thought I was having a heart attack, but we got me into the ambulance. They put a pill under my tongue. I can't remember what the name of the pill was. Maybe you can.
It's probably nitro. My grandfather used to get nitros under his tongue.
Yes. They had put a nitro pill under my tongue just for precaution. And we got to the hospital. We did an EKG. We did a CAT scan on my chest. And they determined that it was an anxiety attack. So
anxiety attacks are no
anxiety
joke.
attacks they have similar, what's the word I'm looking for?
Symptoms.
They're similar symptoms to a heart attack.
Tightness of the chest.
Pain in the arm, tightness in your chest, irregular heartbeat.
Trouble breathing.
Yes, exactly. So
Put you into a cold sweat.
It put me in the hospital overnight.
And Bexy popped off with, I know that there's evil in the world. I'm always shocked at the capacity some people have for it. I'm truly sorry you had this happen for. Hugs. Big hugs.
Thank you. Hugs back. I really appreciate the people that are on the show that are holding their heads high and praising me for coming out and, saying all this, because, I just want to make people out there aware that there are people out there who are willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
To break people apart.
It's, they thrive on finding good people and trying to break them.
Yes, absolutely.
And then Ivania popped off with, Karen doesn't know me from Susan. Want me to teach her a lesson? ?
Hey, there's an idea.
Again, we don't condone. Yeah, we don't condone revenge. It does not solve anything, and it gets you in legal trouble, and you still feel bad.
Yeah. So.
And
I've had thoughts of my own, but I never act on them.
Oh, I've had some thoughts about some things too, but I've never acted on them.
That's better on me because I'm the better man for it.
Exactly. Where, sure, that Karen would have acted.
Oh yeah.
She's already proven she was capable.
Oh yeah, she has.
And this isn't even. This is only half of your lost story, all around the same time frame.
Oh yeah. When my wife and I moved into that house, and we lived together in that house for 9 months, I want to say. And then, so many things were going on with my kids at the time. She was, Karen was trying to accuse everybody that I was hanging out with and their mothers that something sexual was going on. She accused my wife at the time. She accused the person that we were living with. She tried accusing, my mother and father for condoning the act. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the lengths that she went to break up a family. And it's because of her. My father doesn't know her. My brother, my sister don't know them. My grandparents really don't know them either. The two grandparents that I have, I lost my grandfather last year in June.
My condolences.
Thanks. Yeah, I really miss him. He was one of the most influential people in my life. He was a very strong, outspoken individual.
No, it doesn't sound like you at all.
Nah. I had a really close relationship with him. He was my favorite grandparent. He was a teacher. He was a coach. There wasn't a single person out there that he coached that didn't love him. And my grandparents were better people for knowing each other.
Nice. And we're still getting outpourings of love from Brandy here. I'm sorry for you and your family have gone through. Ivania says it's not revenge. It's a free life coach session.
Hey, that sounds better to me.
I had to give her the corked eyebrow emoji.
I was going to say something, but it totally just...
Well, and we can always move on to the other part, too. We're kind of at a good stopping point, I think, on this first one, unless you have more to say.
Well, there's a whole lot more I could say, but I just can't think of anything right now off the top of my head. Oh, okay. I think I got it.
Okay.
Back in February of a certain year. My wife and I had gotten to a certain point where, things were, starting to go on the downhill slide with my kids and I and my friends and other people, that we thought it would be best if I moved out of that house and into my parents' home, so I didn't have to keep traveling back and forth to see my children, because everybody in the house that I was living in at the time, she thought that things were going on with them in the house that weren't actually happening. There was actually a woman from Child Protective Services that came over to inspect our house at the time, and she was pretty jealous with the condition of the house that we were living in. She wanted to know whether or not it was a place that was desirable for children to live in. So nothing really came of that. It didn't really have an effect on any decision they made at the family court level. So onto my parents' house I went. So from between February and the end of May, excuse me, I was living with my parents, and my kids and I were going back and forth until the end of May, which is when she called me. I guess she had a detective in the car with her, and she made a phone call asking me what I was doing with the kids, where I was taking them, what we were doing. And me at the time, I just I didn't have anything to hide.
Right.
So I was, I told her where I was taking them. I was taking them to places like Walmart, the movies, and the place where I worked at a casino at the time. And she wasn't getting the answer she wants, so she straight up came out and said, "You're fucking your daughters." So me at the time, I was just so angry and outraged, and I couldn't believe it, and I really didn't want to believe it was happening. And the next day we had a court hearing, and my parents dropped me off in front of the courthouse and proceeded to park in the parking lot down the street. And two detectives come up to me, and they take me over to the car. They read me my rights, put handcuffs on me, and take me into custody. And they put me in a holding room at their office, and they wanted to ask me questions, and I said, "Nope, I want an attorney," because I wasn't going to say anything and try to incriminate myself, by saying something that, obviously I was angry. So I decided, it's best to keep your mouth shut.
And every lawyer out there, and even a lot of the detectives out there, almost all of them will all say the same thing. Yep. If they read you your rights, keep your mouth shut, because the only thing you can do is get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
Even the most innocent sounding thing can be used against you. And they are professionals at it, and you're an amateur at it.
Yep. Sometimes I go back and think, well, knowing the fact that I wasn't guilty and they wanted to ask me questions, would I really have answered their questions honestly and to the best of my knowledge? In the state of mind I was in? Probably not.
Probably would have shot your mouth off.
I probably would have shot my mouth off with all the anger and resentment that I had in every piece of my soul.
And you may say something sarcastic, but they'll take it literal.
Yeah, they'll take it and use it against you.
Yep. You said this. I was being sarcastic. Nope, that's what you said, word for word.
Every word you say can be used in a court of law.
Can and will.
I think the Miranda rights were changed to just will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not can anymore.
Yeah, and it's definitely will be used against you. Not used for you, against you.
Yep. And that dilemma is, where I am today. Um, would my life be better with my kids? I don't know. I can't answer that question because, I haven't had my kids in my life for, over 11 years. But I can say that my life today is pretty damn good.
Your life would be different. Can't
It
say
would
that.
be different. But, I don't want to say it would be better. I don't want to say it would be worse. But I am pretty happy with my life at this moment.
And Yvonne, you just said, just to understand how she got away with this with no evidence whatsoever. Again, that county, 98% conviction rate.
It's the accusation. It's all that matters.
Yeah, I know this county's losses, their court system. It's, you don't mess with that one. If the system has decided something, it's, I hate to say it, but they're definitely guilty until proven innocent.
Yes, I am living proof.
And she said again, it hurts me on more levels than you even know.
I'm right there with you. And it hurt me. It doesn't hurt me to talk about it. But, when somebody asks me about it, usually people, really haven't had issues of people asking me about these situations. If I keep my mouth closed about it, then I don't get asked about it.
Right.
It's a don't ask, don't tell thing. And if I get asked about it and somebody wants to know, I'm going to be openly truthful. It cost me the ability to get jobs at the time because most companies won't hire people with misdemeanors like that.
Right.
They actually got it dropped down to a misdemeanor child endangerment charge because they had no DNA evidence and they couldn't produce any. I just think the deal that I made was for my best interest and the best interest of the people around me.
I don't disagree at all. It sucks. You got shafted, but had you fought it, there was a 98% chance that you were really going to get shafted.
Yep.
And possibly shanked in prison.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Sorry for the silence. But yeah, the only thing I regret is not having my kids with me. But there's nothing in my life right now that I regret. If I had to do it all over again, I would do the same thing. My wife has been completely supportive of me. She appreciates me for every single thing I do.
And just that alone, considering what you didn't actually even say is that your current wife was your ex's best friend. Was. And was trying to get her on board to fuck you over. Yeah. And instead wound up falling in love with you and marrying you.
Yep. Truth be told.
If that doesn't tell you who the good person is, I don't know what else to tell you.
I don't know. And you can't really explain it better than that. But in my first marriage, it wasn't really on solid ground. She was gone a lot. She was gone 6 months at a time and would come home and 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months at a time and then go back out. And our sexual relationship just wasn't there. Especially after she had gotten a Depo-Provera shot when we were stationed on Guam. Our sexual relationship just really went downhill from there. And I had the opportunity to get with other women. Am I proud of that now? No. Because that's not the person I am today.
All right, people change, people grow.
Yep, and I have changed, I have grown. I have become a totally different person, and I am comfortable with the person I am today because of it. I mean, I've learned from all my negative experiences.
And then, can they truly be considered negative if you learn from them? At the time, they're negative, but
At the time they're negative, but yeah, you learn from all your experiences, whether positive or negative.
well,
But you tend to
you
learn
should
more.
learn from them.
Yes, absolutely.
There's some people out there you watch, you're like, do you ever learn?
But you tend to learn more from the negative because it's something you don't want to repeat.
Actually, it was Coach Lombardi who said that you learn a sentence from a win, a book from a loss.
Yes,
it is so true.
It is. But
and we still haven't even touched upon
my mother.
Your mother.
Yeah, that's a subject I tend to push to the side because it.
And this all happened around the same time too, which is.
It happened after all my children's stuff was over. It had been just over a year after the court cases were over, and I was kind of trying to get on with my life. And I was still on probation. They weren't really strict with me because, of course, I was never. It was never really an issue with law enforcement. I went and had my monthly meetings with my probation officer, and that was that. And then once a month went down to every other month, and blah blah blah, and vice versa. But shortly after I began living with my parents, my mother had started to sleep throughout the day and would kind of lose her footing coming down the stairs. And during the time I lived with them, I started going to back to school, to try to get a degree in, not a degree, but a certificate in being an EMT. I went to live with some other guy. I guess he was renting his room for $300 a month, closer to school. So I decided to go live with him. And a couple weeks after that, just a couple weeks after I moved in, my mother had fallen down the stairs. So they took her to Marshall Hospital in Placerville.
You want to be careful about dropping too much time frames and locations.
But yeah, that happened, and they just determined that she had a glioblastoma, and from there they took her to a hospital, another hospital in Northern California. And it was determined that, they did all the CAT scans, did all the studies, and there were certain things that they wanted to do to her, some kind of a, I don't know what you call it, some kind of an experimental thing.
Procedure?
Yeah, procedure, whatever you want to call it. And those were some of the most the most difficult parts of my life. I was very close to my mother. My mother and I were, I can't really put into words what she meant to me.
I mean, let's face it. You were a mama's boy, and I don't mean that derogatorily at all.
I know you don't. I mean, I was, and I'm not ashamed of it. People out there want to call me mama's boy, whatever have you. My mom was one of the most, if not the most influential people in my life.
Yeah, I mean, if someone accuses me of being a mama's boy, I can tell at least I have a mama.
Yeah, right. There's some people out there that, my ex-wife, for instance, that really is not an influential part of my children's lives.
I mean, she'd rather ditch your kids off onto her parents so she can go out and party.
Which is what she did.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is what she did.
Got the kids in the divorce, and then, God, what am I going to do with these kids?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. She didn't want to have anything to do with them. I would have given my life to spend, 5 minutes with my kids when they were away from me.
She did it just to hurt you, just because you're good.
Yep. But yeah, my mom, it's tough to talk about because she was my rock at the time. I could go to her and tell her everything that I needed to tell her, and she wouldn't judge me. Even though she knew me, she would give me advice on what to do here or what to do there. But I miss her. I miss her every day.
I know you do.
I think about her constantly. I would give anything to have her in my life right now. And the things that happened to her, I believe they were just inexcusable, because we could have had her for another year or two if they didn't perform this procedure that was performed on her.
Performed without authorization.
Yes. And they didn't know what they were introducing into the body when it happened.
And yeah, we probably don't want to talk too much about it again.
No.
Yeah.
That's where it stops.
Yeah.
That's where it stops.
But suffice it to say, this procedure cost her life.
Yes, it did. And then things just went downhill from there. I don't know how much more I can explain without going into explicit detail, which I am not willing to do. And I believe your listeners out there can understand why.
And there's also the legal aspect of it too.
Yes. Yeah. We both know what could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do my best to think about her in a positive sense instead of the way she was when she passed away.
I helped move stuff out of that house.
Yep.
I felt her presence there.
I feel her presence to this day. Here she comes. Yeah, I feel it right now. Excuse me.
That's okay.
As soon as I said something about it.
Take your time.
I'm assuming that anybody out there who's lost a loved one can relate to my emotions.
I know that I'm giving you a virtual hug as best I can right now, and I'm sure quite a few of the listeners are. Bexy, I guarantee, is sending hugs. She's probably typing it up right now.
Oh, God. Yeah, I just felt her there for a moment.
And there it is. Bexy, all the hugs. I could definitely relate.
Thanks, Bexy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Bexy and Ivania become friends on Facebook. All because Bexy said some people are like slinkies. They aren't really good for anything, but they still bring a smile on my face when I push them down a flight of stairs.
Such is life.
Ivania, my dad was taken off of life support against his wishes. Not the same, but I understand.
Yeah, my emotions for my mother run really deep.
I mean,
She
one of the
was,
reasons that we're friends is that you wear your emotion, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You really do.
yes, I do. I do. I'm not. I don't keep my emotions inside. You know, if I need to let it out, I let it out.
And Kat sent you hugs too.
Thanks, Kat. Um, I've just had a lot of ups and downs in my life, but lately it's been more ups. So I really don't have a lot to complain about my life today. Actually, really nothing to complain about. And I'm living in a beautiful place. I have a beautiful wife. I am thankful for a roof over my head.
And that scar on your neck's not going to be so bad from your surgery.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be that bad at all. I'm actually starting to feel a lot better. I actually lost a lot of feeling in my hands before I had the surgery. I guess what they did was they put some metal in the back of my neck, or yeah, and I guess they unpinched the nerves and just kind of moved stuff around back there to make sure that I could feel a lot more and be in a lot less pain. So that worked for now.
And I mean, it looks like you may have gotten a little carried away with a razor a little too low on your neck, shaving that neck beard. See, there you go. Like you could always say that someone held a razor to your neck and you came out on top.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. My mom was a really, really good person. And if you knew her like I did, you were friends with her in an instant and for life.
I have a feeling I would have really have liked her.
You would have. My mom and my dad are just completely two different people.
Yeah. I like your dad, but that's about as...
Come on, man. I don't even like my dad.
You don't. Well, I only had the one encounter with him, and he put his best foot forward.
Yeah.
But I take your lead.
Yeah.
Obviously, your dad's not a great person.
No. He's insensitive, selfish at times. And
that's wait, at times.
At times, yes.
Yeah. Now I'm starting to remember more about him again. It's just go through the years. It's like, yeah, no, you know what? I really don't like your dad. No, I really, really don't like your dad.
And neither does my wife. She doesn't really. She really doesn't. I mean, she really doesn't. Yeah, every time I get into a conversation about my family, especially my dad, you can call my dad a dick if you want. He's an asshole. You say what you really mean. And my dad and I talk every now and again, but I try to keep everything to a minimum with him. I mean, talking to him is not a pleasure. I mean, when I feel it necessary to talk to him, I'll call him. I'll call him every once in a blue moon, and ask him how things are going. Just to be the bigger and better person. Because he'll never call me, even though the phone works both ways.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, haven't you? Growing up, my mom was the most influential person. I learned most of my habits from her. How to make my bed and, clean up after yourself and, stuff like that. Most of my discipline, if not all, came from my father. It was wait till your father gets home because mom didn't want to have to deal with the discipline.
Talk about old school.
Yeah, the disciplinarian was my father. I was raised old school. If we did something we weren't supposed to, if it was in the middle of the night, and my brother and I were talking in the bedroom, we wouldn't keep quiet. Out to the garage we went for a discussion and an ass whipping.
Yeah, no. My family, my dad was more the disciplinarian, but my mom could dish it too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, the timing of it all, where, I mean, you lost your kids and just almost right on the heels, your mom too. It's just,
yeah. I mean, those were,
I was there for that too. I just, it's like I entered in a really weird time of your life.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, if you don't mind my asking, and you can tell me to fuck off if you want.
Sure.
Like, how was your mom dealing with these accusations that you got during that time?
My mom thought they were preposterous. She knew that there was no way that any of this could happen.
But how does she feel about your ex?
Especially with my mom. She hated her
from the beginning.
My mom, my family didn't like her. They didn't like her at all. And my uncle, he came over one Thanksgiving, and Karen was, being her usual self, sleeping on the couch in the living room, and the kids were upstairs screaming and making a ruckus. So she yells out to me in the living room, "Why would you go take care of this?" Seriously? Really? You're sitting in there and they're screaming their heads off and you can't go upstairs and take care of it yourself? That was when my family knew that she was not fit to be a parent, not fit to be a mother. So, me being the good father that I am, I went up and took care of it.
Also, just being the gentle soul that you are, you probably tried to smooth it over with your family, too.
Of course. But they were all wondering, you're in there, why can't you go take care of it?
The reason that I can relate to that is with my ex. Mm-hmm. My family couldn't. They tolerated her, but I mean, I literally had my dad one day find me. He drove around town, found me, pulled over, flagged me down, and flat out said, "I don't like, who you're with, but she seems to make you happy, and that's the only thing that I'm going to support, is that it seems to make you happy." But it was the same. Yeah, but it was the same kind of thing. She could be one room away from the kids and they're throwing a fit. I could be halfway across the house helping do something, and she'd yell, "Can you take care of that?" So yeah, and of course I'd have to try to play peacemaker with my family because they were all like, "The fuck?"
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely relate to that.
Yeah.
But
dude, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yes, we are.
In a lot of ways.
I found a very good friend in you.
Same.
You've got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me. Oh, wait, I actually put a little vibrato in there. We're talking about Randy Newman. It's got to be like, "You got a friend in me." No vibrato.
Oh, man. So, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that I could say.
I mean, if any of the listeners have questions.
If any of the listeners have questions, go ahead and shoot.
Yep. Bexy, life dealt you some tough blows, but look at the amazing person you are today. Even though you may hold your sword in a shaky hand, we see the demons you are slaying. Carry on, warrior. You are stronger than you realize.
Thank you. I know I am. I don't let things like this run my life. I decide to let things like this run away from my life.
That which doesn't kill me better run.
Yes. That which doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
All I saw was Drew Barrymore's character on 50 First Dates. Keep running!
Yeah. Anyways, right now I have a beautiful life. I mean, I love where I'm living right now. It makes me happy.
That's awesome.
It makes me sane. It makes me calm.
And you've got to see some of the most beautiful parts of the world, too. So
yes. I've been to Canada twice. I love it there.
And Gay Paris.
Oh, yes. the most beautiful place I've ever been. And my uncle lives there, so I get to see him too.
That's the best part.
Yep. That is the best part. And I don't have a lot to complain about that because I just don't.
I mean, your life story kind of does show, taking life's lemons.
Yep.
And that old thing, you found your enemies and you squirt them in the eye. Oh, wait, no, it's
take
supposed to be lemonade, sorry.
Life gives me lemons and I make lemonade.
Life gives me lemons, I stuff them in a sock and I go beat the thing that threw the lemons at me. You can probably actually picture that in your head, too. Me swinging the sock over my head, chasing someone.
Yep, I can see you doing that.
Wow, the listeners are quiet.
Yeah, and I didn't grow up in an abusive household. So, how she could accuse me of doing anything like this is just mind-boggling. Because someone who does something like this was either raised in a violent and abusive household. I really can't explain it any other way.
I could see it as maybe they were completely neglected, and that's why any attention was worthwhile, because they got no attention as a child.
But I was never neglected as a child.
And both Ivania and Bexy, I swear, they are definitely cut from the same cloth, too. Ivania, no, you freeze lemons and throw them at people. Bexy, life gives me lemons and I freeze them and chuck them at people. So, they were typing that at the same time.
The only thing I've chucked lemons at is cars driving down the street when I was a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're a kid, you do young and stupid things.
Lemons, oranges.
I have a tree that grows both.
Huh. I don't have any trees at all. Except for the ones out my side window. So yeah, and dealing with my mental incapabilities is just a day in and day out thing, and I have an emotional support animal that helps me get through that. My Yorkie,
which I never would have pictured you with a small dog. I always pictured you as like a lab or a husky.
I never thought for one day in my life that I would have a small dog.
But that small dog is like an extension of your soul, and it shows.
She is. Absolutely. She's in my lap all day, and she sleeps with me in bed at night. I just feel better feel more mentally stable with my wife and my dog both, because her and I, she's in a lot of pain all the time.
Right.
She's got her back issues, her neck issues, and a lot of that pain goes down to her legs. She's got narcolepsy, and all that stuff on top of it just makes you don't want to move. And I mean, I can understand that. And she's better explained that to me over the course of time. So, I spend most of my day in the living room, and she spends most of her day in the bedroom. And, that's the norm for us. I don't love her more. I don't love her any less because of it.
Right. And it's not like she's separating herself because she wants to be away from you.
No,
she can't.
She's separating herself because it's necessary. It's a necessary thing. And I've come to completely understand that.
And that was tough for you at first.
We're not any less happy for it. As a matter of fact, we grow in our relationship daily. And you wouldn't think that of a relationship like this, but in this case, it's true.
Right. It's like if anybody, having been that outsider that has come into your house,
yes,
and, we watch football games together, so we spent several hours in the house together, and she only comes out a few times. Most people would be like, thinking, God, this is like the tail end of a relationship where they're just together because it's more convenient. No. And that's just not the case, because every moment that you get, there is a real glow between you two.
Yes, absolutely.
Where with the other kinds of relationships where you see that kind of distancing, that it's like there's a tension that enters the room and it's uncomfortable to be around. But
No,
when she enters the room, it lightens up. It just gets better.
you can just see that aura.
Yeah, you can just, it's just the whole room feels more complete.
It does.
And even as an outsider, you can't help but feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's definitely don't judge a book by its cover, because that's what it is.
Don't get me wrong here. I go in and I spend as much time with her as I can.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it be, going into the bedroom a couple hours early to, just to go in and have a conversation or just, sit there. Sit there and be silent. And sometimes just looking across the room at each other. That makes all the difference.
Sometimes, like, with my current wife and I, sometimes we just don't want to talk. We don't want to cuddle, but we'll lay in bed side by side and just be comforted by the presence.
Yeah. And you could feel that.
Yeah.
And it makes so much of a difference.
You're gassy.
I've never had this kind of relationship where I've felt so appreciated and so loved, and just,
brother, you're getting what you're giving. You deserve this.
I know I do.
Good. Some people don't realize that they deserve it when they're getting it.
She is my soulmate. Not a lot of people get a chance to meet their soulmates. You know your soulmate's out there, but you don't know where they are.
Right.
And
you guys met under the most messed up of circumstances that I could possibly imagine. I couldn't have written that story.
No, I don't think anybody could have.
I just don't have it in me to even conceive having tried to do what she did. Obviously now I could write the story, having seen it. But again, I couldn't have invented a more messed up situation for you to have met your soulmate and have you guys actually work out.
No, but if I ever got the opportunity to rewrite it, I'd say,
yeah, God no. And you'll get your kids back.
I know. I think every day knowing that I will. I try to send them, birthday cards every time they have a birthday. I do stuff like that, but, me knowing that, I know they won't get them. Well, but the thing I do is I take pictures of them, pictures of the cards that I send. So if they ever have a question about, why didn't you ever send me a birthday card? Well, here you go. Here's the proof that I sent it.
Yep.
And I have proof of letters that I sent them. Very, in depth and at length.
And didn't you tell me not too long ago that one of the kids actually intercepted the mail and got one of your letters?
No, they didn't.
Oh.
No. I tried to send a letter via certified mail. And, I suggested when I sent it that they be the only ones to sign for it. Well, them being the age they are, their mother can go in and just sign for it.
Right.
And, that's one of the things that I've come to realization with. Anything that I send them, their mother's going to intercept or either throw in the garbage or, name a long list of things to what a negligent parent can do with anything that you send them. I just can't believe that I met and married a woman that was and is so vile and vindictive, manipulative, and so deceitful. She's just an ugly person all around. But she's manipulated people into believing her. And, the more people she has to believe her, the better, because that's just who she is.
For her, it's a popularity contest.
And she wants the attention. Whether more negative than positive, to be honest. Just as long as she's getting the attention. It doesn't matter.
Brother, I got some philosophy I want to drop on you after the show. Because I don't really go into philosophy on the show. The show's not about philosophy. But yeah, there's a philosophy that you're describing that this is hitting like 100%. And some of the listeners, they know exactly what philosophy I'm talking about.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No, I know you didn't. It's just, once I explain this a little bit to you, you're going to be like, light bulb, holy shit.
Mind blown.
Yes. Like, I could not have come up with a more clear-cut example of this.
Wow. Now you got me looking forward to something.
Yeah, well, we could do a little post-show thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been at an hour and 15 minutes now. If anybody has any questions, anything you want to say.
I can't believe we've been on this long. That's crazy.
Yeah, when you're in the hot seat, the time flies.
Absolutely. It felt like we just got on like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And, I mean, we talked about your kids. You shed tears over your mom, felt her mom's presence. That's quite a lot in a short time.
That was no shit in there. I mean, I could literally feel just like a tingling inside of me. I mean, when I feel my mom, I know I feel her. Like, she hasn't left since I started talking about her. She's still here with me right now.
Well, I mean, if it was one of my kids, I'd be right there too.
She is with me every day. I've got a necklace of hers in my room that I keep close by my bed. I had to literally steal that necklace.
I remember
from the inside of my truck, from the inside of the truck that my mom used to drive. My dad saw it hanging from the mirror. He's like, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "I got it from here in the truck." He literally tried to take it back from me. I said, "That's the only thing I have that belonged to her right now." And he didn't want me. If it was up to him, I would have had nothing. Nothing. He didn't care whether I had anything to remind me of my mother or not. I mean, what kind of father does that to his children?
Not a very good one. Yeah, so I take back what I said that I liked him.
But like I said, he's selfish.
Yeah.
He wants everything for himself.
And I mean, what was he going to do with it? Store it away somewhere?
Put it in a box somewhere, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, my mom and I, we shared the same like for, the Twilight series. And, we went to a movie together. And the Twilight movies just happened to be sitting in a storage cabinet that my father had to store all the movies. When he wasn't looking, guess what I did? I stole them.
But he still doesn't even realize they're gone.
He doesn't even realize they're gone. You know why? Because he's not interested in them. That's something my mother and I shared. My mother and I shared a lot together. Shared a lot of similar things. And I can't go into a tangent of, what everything was, because there's so many things on that list. But my mom and I were very much the same person. I guess you could say he's kindred spirits.
Yeah. And
and I share the same thing with my uncle who lives in Paris. That's tri-kindred.
Yeah, and I've seen it too. I mean, with your own siblings, they take more after your dad.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm not even going to be nice about it.
Hence why I don't get along with them. I don't think I've ever explained this before, but when my father and mother bailed me out of jail, it cost them $5,000. And then the family agreed that I would need to borrow money to hire an attorney. So my sister chipped in $300. Another one of my mom's friends chipped in a couple $100 because it cost $7,500 to hire the attorney. So my uncle, my dad's brother, he pitched in $3,000. My dad's sister pitched in $3,000, and I hired an attorney. And everything that happened after that, the attorney got her money, whatever. But they all came back. Before we got the money, they said, "Well, you do understand that you're going to have to pay the money back at some point in time, and if you don't, then we're not going to go through this." So, of course, I was going to agree to it. Of course, I was lying about paying back the money, because you do what you can to help family out. But in this case, it was more I don't know how to describe it, but if my dad were in the same situation and it were me trying to bail him out of jail for something that that he didn't do,
right?
If I would have dropped the $5,000 for him without even thinking about it and not asking for it back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if my sister did the same thing,
and,
if I ever got into a case of extreme need, would I be like, hey, I lent you this money way back when, and I'm hurting now. Otherwise, I'd be like, okay, there you go.
My dad's not hurting,
right?
But anyway, the family turned against me, and I'm like, you do know that I'm not the one at fault for this, right? You do know that. It's because of her that we're in this situation. The so-called money you think I owe you is not because you think I owe it to you, but it's because of the person that made me think that I owed it to you, or that made you think that I owed it to you.
Right. If anybody owes the money, it's her.
Yes, it is, absolutely. And I wrote my dad a very strongly worded letter about the whole situation. She's the one to blame, not me.
I mean, you did nothing.
No,
you were the victim.
I was the victim. So yeah, I keep myself distanced from my father. I keep myself distanced from my brother and my sister. I mean, if they want to call me, they want to talk to me, and they can call my dad and get my phone number, because my dad has my phone number, and they can talk to me if they want. I have no qualms or issues with that. But I'm leaving that up to them, because they're the ones that made that choice, not me.
Anything from the listeners? There's a little bit of a delay between what we say and when they hear it.
Oh, okay.
It's about 7 seconds. I timed it myself.
I did.
Yeah, where I was before we ever went live with even episode 1. I was like, well, let's see if there's a delay. So I logged in and started listening, and yeah, there's a few second delay.
Ugh. I need to stop playing with that. I'm fidgeting.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of clicks from that pen.
It's not a pen.
Or whatever it is.
It's stylus.
Ah.
I was playing with it. I was fidgeting. Because that's what ADHD people do. They fidget.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bexy's so enraptured by the story. Yeah, no, it's a story. That's for sure. If you guys saw the Facebook post about it, it said it's a story. It's about loss, and there's a lot of loss in there. I kept out the good parts because I like people getting little happy surprises. I mean, again, you have a beautiful wife. You live in a beautiful area.
I have a beautiful wife, and I have a beautiful life.
Yes. You're going to have yourself a beautiful house.
Yep.
Of your own.
Yep, because we plan on building one right here in the good old Washington, PA, Washington.
Just waiting to see if anybody else has anything to say.
No, I love it here. I mean, this is probably the best city I've ever lived in.
That says something. You've traveled.
Yeah, I have. I lived in Reno. I lived in
Ew.
Frickin' I lived in Sac County. I lived in El Dorado County. I packed up and gone places more times than you can probably count.
Plus military. A lot of places
Yep.
that you've been
Plus
that
military.
way too.
I've been around. I've been around a time or two.
Yep. Kat, glad you have a parentheses better wife and uncle to support you now.
Yep.
Yes. No, and it is good that you saw that kindred spirit in the family somewhere.
Yep.
I have a feeling that it's going to be like the thread of gold that just keeps passing from generation to generation.
Yeah. That it will.
So that can't be squashed.
Ain't nobody squashing this.
No. I would say if I were to sum up your life as far as I've known you in a word, perseverance.
Yeah.
You've never stopped.
No, and I won't.
Even when you had the weight of the world on your shoulders, you just kept pressing on.
If my life is good now, it can only get better.
Yeah, and your life got pretty bad for a while there.
Oh, I was down in the dumps.
As if it's the worst thing in the world, but you did live with me for a while too.
That was not the worst thing in the world. Come on.
No, I know. Hey, you're not the only person that we've invited. We still have people living with us. It's just what we do.
Wow.
But you were the first.
Yeah. And that was
a long time.
pretty good times.
That was.
Yeah. It made us closer.
It really did.
Yep.
It really did. I mean, sometimes doing that could really ruin a friendship. It only made ours stronger.
It made us stronger.
That's when we went truly into the brotherhood, in my mind.
Yes. Yes, it was.
I am really glad that you came on this episode. And I'm glad that you were also my first listener. The first one in chat.
Yes, I was.
Yes, you were. You were all alone.
I remember that first episode.
Ugh, man. I had no idea what I was doing.
Must have been tough.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize that my essay was going to go so fast. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I had the co-host. That was a rough episode. Come a long way.
You seem to be pretty in the groove now.
I think so. I think we figured it out. And there's still stuff that we're figuring out.
Yeah.
Like the cutting out, I'm not going to lie. I misclicked a button. I went to unmute myself and I accidentally muted you. And I was like, son of a... All because of this overlay that popped up. And I was like, well, my button's behind the overlay. Click. You went mute. I went, oh, crap.
Oh, Lord God.
All right. Well, I think this might be a good stopping point. We're not getting very many messages. We know that there's quite a few listeners.
And I appreciate all listening to this episode. It's been wonderful listening and, responding to your comments. But, if you have friends, if you know people, Eric has a great following and a wonderful show.
You name dropped again. Everybody already knows my name by now.
They all know your name by now.
I know. Thank you. Yeah, no, honestly, the listeners are the absolute best. They really are. I mean...
That is the core of the show.
I mean, we had John on here who has his own podcast, and he was begging for my listeners. So, I mean, you guys are the best. You guys really are.
I mean, all your friends are going to just name drop at least once.
Oh, I know. I do have some episodes this season where there's people coming on that I don't know, which is nice.
So I guess you can't name drop that.
Knowing my luck, they will. They'll be like, wait, isn't your name? Oh, God. People! It's all getting back at me for name dropping on the first episode. But I have not name dropped a guest yet. And I'm hoping to keep it that way. But yeah, we have Ariel saying enjoyed listening. Bexy, thank you for sharing with another name drop. LMAO and Kat giving the shock emoji because of the name drop.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yes, Bexy did name drop. First name drop on me was by Bexy.
How many shows ago was that?
I'm not saying which show it was because The name that they are using in the chat is different than the name they use in the episodes. I'm not going to say.
Okay.
If they wanted that to be known, they'd change their name in the chat, or they even say that.
That's your liberty.
Yep. And I'm only mentioning that she even was on the show because she admitted it on the chat. So,
yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have even said that. And there she goes, as it should be. Yeah, again, privacy is huge for me. And I want my guests to be as sheltered as they want to be. If you want to drop your name, you want to drop information, you want to go ahead and go into chat and be like, hey, that was me on the episode, that's your prerogative. Yep. I'm not the one that's going to do that.
Yeah.
Bexy just went ahead and dropped it. It was the second episode. I don't mind people knowing. Her episode was really good.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah. Oh, she's a ride or die. I love her to death.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. Ride or die, baby.
Yep. And there it is. I know E. All right.
We are ride or die.
Yes. Well, I don't know any other way.
Yeah, I've got a Fast and Furious shirt that says that, ride or die.
Nice. All right. So everybody that's listening, if you like what you're hearing, hit that like, hit that love, whatever it happens to be, because we're on a lot of different places now. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Google, we're on like Deezer. I mean, the list is huge. Facebook has a link right now. Obviously Sprecher, which is our host, which loves Sprecher. They're amazing. Hit the follow. That way you can be alerted. There will be, I know I keep promising to have a link for financial support. We are going to be getting a website built. We are going to have a forum there. And we're going to have our own custom app. I didn't want to see your foot. But yeah, we are going to have...
That's why I put it up there.
Yeah, if we get the funding for it, we will have our own podcast app, both for Android and iOS, so that way it's dedicated to us. I don't know all the details behind it. I'm going to look into it. It's actually a cool little feature that Sprecher has offered us, and I want to take advantage of it. I think it'd be pretty nice. That way when we go live, you only have one place to go. Right to our own app. Woohoo!
Yep. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead and show that love, people. And till next week, we're out. But now do you see?